Welcome everyone to the 2024 SIEPR Economic Summit. I'm delighted to see all of you here today. I'm Mark Duggan, the Trione Director of SIEPR, and also the Wayne and Jodi Cooperman Professor of Economics here at Stanford. And I'm really thrilled to welcome you to the summit, which is now in its 20th year. And as always, we have a jam-packed day with a truly exceptional lineup of speakers and panelists. So we're trying to do a lot today. So I think it is going to be a pretty action-packed day. So buckle your seatbelt. For those of you who have been part of our community for some, most, or all of the last 20 years, welcome back. You know how powerful and inspiring the summit is, and I promise you're in for another really excellent event. For those who are new to our orbit, the summit is a great way to start to get to know us. This is our flagship event each year, and it allows us to bring together the world's leading economists, business leaders, and government officials. All of this great programming is made possible by so many of you, our community of supporters. And I also want to give a sincere and very special thank you to our corporate sponsor this year, Dodge & Cox. Their support has been instrumental to making this year's summit and many previous summits a huge success. In addition to the events that we hold, SIEPR supports more than 125 affiliated faculty members from each of Stanford's 7 schools. They all bring important perspectives that help us examine a wide range of economic policy issues, ranging from money and finance to energy and the environment. We also attract many of the profession's rising stars through our Young Scholars Program and other academic visitors programs, and we provide many opportunities for undergraduates, predoctoral fellows, and graduate students to work closely with our faculty on policy-relevant research. We directly engage public servants and journalists with our Policy Fellows and Media Fellows programs, and we convene our community with smaller monthly events, biannual policy forums, and the SIEPR Economic Summit, our flagship event each year. This year's summit comes at a time of particular urgency and importance as we head toward a presidential election here in the US, and many formidable economic and political challenges are swirling here at home and around the world. Rigorous data-driven research is exactly what we produce at SIEPR to help those on the front lines of policy make better decisions. And it's our job today to focus on evidence and allow it to guide our conversations. Even with the polarization we're seeing in US politics, there is quite a bit of good news around. The economy is relatively strong, and we've seen inflation fall steadily from more than 9% to about 3% without a corresponding rise in unemployment. According to the University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index, consumer optimism was up in February for the 3rd month in a row, and indices of business confidence are also showing positive signs. But this follows a long period of quite negative feelings fueled by the pandemic, rising inflation, and fears of a recession, even as the overall economy grew stronger following the pandemic. Many expect the Fed may reduce interest rates later this year, and we'll be hearing this afternoon from Adriana Kugler, a member of the Federal Reserve's Board of Governors, about the state and status of the labor market and much more. Additionally, the US is saddled with rising federal debt. The Congressional Budget Office, whose director Phil Swagel will be speaking later today in our panel on the federal fiscal situation, expects the deficit to grow steadily from $1.6 trillion this year to $2.6 trillion just 10 years from now. Of course, there's more to a presidential election than the state of the US economy. And the US economy is impacted by forces well beyond our borders. We are confronted by some big challenges: climate change, aging populations and lower birth rates, persistent inequality, armed conflicts in Ukraine, the Middle East, and many other regions of the world. These and many other issues threaten our collective prosperity, even as global growth is projected to rise somewhat next year from about 3% this year. I'm really looking forward to tonight's keynote address from Kevin Rudd, Australia's ambassador to the US, and the conversation he'll have with our good friend and Stanford colleague, Condoleezza Rice, the former US Secretary of State. I know that will help us give us a wide-ranging perspective on trade, international security, and the global economy. We'll also be looking into the future of technology with Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA, who will deepen our understanding of how artificial intelligence is poised to change our economic, learning, and professional landscapes in the coming years. Jensen joins us as he and his company are celebrating incredible success, having reached a $2 trillion valuation just 8 months after surpassing $1 trillion, a remarkable milestone that's the culmination of decades worth of work and dedication that happened long before AI recently exploded into mainstream everyday conversations. We'll also be considering the future of our cities. Along the Center for American Industry and Productivity, our urban centers are going through a post-COVID shift that requires an examination of their budgets, services, and public safety. Healthcare spending, which accounts for more than 17% of our country's GDP, is in need of reform, and we'll have a panel today featuring leaders from academia, business, and policy looking at some of the near-term changes that can be made and more ambitious ideas that can help lower costs and improve quality in the years ahead. And in just a few minutes, we'll be joined by the CEO of Ford, Jim Farley, who is leading Ford's charge toward electric vehicles and is dealing with so many of the issues that our other speakers and panelists will address today. All of these topics speak to why the insights produced by SIEPR faculty are so important. We're generating research and analysis intended for policymakers and business leaders, like the ones we have with us here today, to digest, absorb, and use to make better decisions that will affect all of our lives. For me, it's been an incredible honor to lead SIEPR these last 8.5 years since 2015. The job for me has been a professional highlight of my career, and I'm incredibly grateful to so many of you and many others for helping to build SIEPR into the powerhouse that I think it is today. As I announced about 8 months ago, I've decided to step down as SIEPR director 6 months from today, at the end of this academic year, to return to research advising and to create a new class while still trying to keep my commitment to engaging with policymakers about Social Security reform and other economic policy issues. And today I'm happy to announce, as many of you read in today's Stanford report, that I am passing SIEPR's proverbial baton to my friend and colleague, Neil Mahoney. Neil is the George Shultz Fellow at SIEPR and a professor of economics here at Stanford, and he recently served as a special advisor on President Biden's National Economic Council. Neil will be taking over as SIEPR's Trione director on January 1st, 2025, after a long-planned sabbatical. For the 4 months in between September and the start of the new year, our good friend Greg Roston will serve as SIEPR's interim director. Greg, of course, is a familiar face to many of you. In addition to being the Gordon Cain Senior Fellow here at SIEPR and director of Stanford's Public Policy Program, he also served for many years as SIEPR's deputy director while John Chauvin led the Institute. And I'm so grateful that he stayed on in the deputy director role through my first year as SIEPR director. I know you'll all enjoy partnering with Greg and getting to know Neil in the months ahead. And I honestly couldn't think of a better path forward for SIEPR, and I'm looking forward to seeing where the next generation of leadership takes us. I'm also very grateful to David Studdert, Stanford's Vice Provost and Dean of Research, who oversees SIEPR and the university's other institutes. I like to refer to him as my boss, but he doesn't like to refer to himself that way. But he is. It's good to know your place in life, and I do. David has been very supportive of SIEPR and believes strongly in our mission. And I would like to welcome up here to say a few words and introduce you to Neil. So here to my boss. Here's David Studdert.
Thanks, Mark. No, I'm not your boss. I'm your friend, but I hope you enjoyed teasing me. On behalf of Stanford's President and Provost, our faculty, students and staff, welcome to campus and welcome to SIEPR's 20th Economic Summit. I'm sorry about the weather. That's not something I have to say very often around here. I'm absolutely delighted that Neil Mahoney has agreed to succeed Mark as SIEPR's next director. Neil has had a long association with the Institute. He's a proven and trusted leader in national economic policy. He's also a superb scholar. In my scholarly home of health policy, Neil's work in health economics is widely known and widely admired. I want to thank the search committee, co-chaired by John Levin, Dean of the Graduate School of Business, and Greg Roston. The committee used the search as a moment to engage in hundreds of conversations, inside and outside the SIEPR community, to learn where the Institute is up to, and to carefully consider the most important attributes for SIEPR's next leader. Many people in this room provided their insights and perspectives, so I want to thank you. All that fed into the process that identified Neil as the clear choice for SIEPR's next leader. The debrief I received from the search committee summarised what they had heard from the many stakeholder conversations. There was a lot, but I want to call out two themes because I think they set the stage nicely for today's discussions. First, in an extremely partisan moment in American politics, SIEPR's non-partisan, apolitical approach is invaluable and all too rare. Over 40 years, the Institute has earned a reputation as an honest broker and as a straight shooter. Second, and really related, the search committee heard very strong support for SIEPR's continuing role as a convener of discussions about the most important economic policy issues of the day. I know Neil is committed to building on those two pillars in the years ahead. There will be time to celebrate Mark's many achievements as director in the months ahead. Thanks to Greg Roston for stepping up to bridge the leadership transition, and thanks to his family. And Neil, thank you for agreeing to this assignment. I look forward to working with you, and can I invite you to the podium to say a few words? Thanks, everyone. I hope today goes well.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Mark. Welcome, everybody. This is a huge privilege for me to be standing in front of all of you. I'm honored to lead SIEPR, an institution for which I have a deep respect and affinity. I became interested in the intersection between economic policy and economic research when I was a teenager. I was first interested in economic policy when I started reading the newspaper in middle school and learned about the big issues facing our world. In high school, I was drawn to economics because I found that economics had the powerful frameworks and the rigorous evidence to help me think about the issues of the day. In my adult life, I've been fortunate to work on both sides of the bridge that connects economic research and economic policy. I've spent most of my adult career as a researcher writing research papers and explaining the results to policymakers. But through 2 stints in government, I've also been on the receiving side of economic research. I know I've sat at the policymaking table, and I know that evidence, when it's relevant, when it's clearly articulated, evidence makes a difference. SIEPR has everything one could ask for to build bridges between economic thinkers and economic doers. We have a talented, dedicated staff who I will be honored to work with. I'm humbled by our advisory board's wisdom and foresight, and our 120 plus affiliated faculty from across Stanford are the best in the world. Mark, I don't know where you are. Hey, Mark. Mark and I both ran track in high school. We both ran the 4x400 meters. Mark, you've run a fast lap, actually 9 fast laps. Set me up for success. I have big shoes to fill, but I know we have a lot of momentum, and I know that we're going to have a firm baton pass to set me on my way. So thank you, Mark. I can't wait to get started. Come.